Good evening, it's evening by now. Mark at the Expert Corner group, and we're talking sharpening strokes and longitudinal strokes, edge leading, edge trailing, round and round. All of that ties in intimately when you're dealing with a wicked edge with your sharpening angle, because we are locking the knife in a sophisticated bench vise with precision angle jigs with the cube and a plan. And we plan to achieve those angles that we set by moving the stones at those sharpening angles that with those sharpening strokes, edge leading, edge trailing, and scrubbing and round, in order to sharpen the knife. And a progression of sharpening the knife, we sharpen the knife and then we generally end up at the end wanting to strop the knife. Now, it's recommended for the new user, when you strop a knife, that whatever angle you sharpened at, that you look to reduce that angle. That means make that angle more acute. If you start at 20, you want to go to 18 degrees, 2 degrees more acute. That means that your stones are going to go like that. If we already started at a very low angle, there may not be any way we can go closer, reduce that angle, more acute. We become more parallel. So the chances of the strop hitting the vise before it can hit the edge is greatly increased. So what I recommend, just like we're thinking about the scratch patterns and the ramifications, we have to think about the angle at the outset. Is that angle such that we can sharpen this knife again and again and lower that angle to strop? So these are considerations. So because of that consideration, back to the first video where I discussed the stabilizer, expands that angle to make it easier to achieve low angle. Now, with the Gen 4 Pro, a characteristic of the vise is that there's a plastic insert that helps to bite the knife and helps secure the clamping, but it also sticks out on the side of the vise, a bump out. And that bump out will contact your stone first. We're not scuffing the jaws anymore. We're contacting the bump out on the dual cam vise. So that's going to be your limiter of where the lowest achievable sharpening angle. And I always talk about the lowest achievable angle because I think you need to look at that in your plan, your sharpening plan, when you first clamp the knife, because if you don't know how close you can get, you don't know where you're going to be able to fit the strop in between your sharpening angle. We pick a random number. I want to put a 15-degree angle on there, just because 15-degree number is a number that correlates with a very thin edge and usually a very sharp knife. So if we can put a thin edge and a sharp edge on a knife at 15 degrees, it is a feeling of accomplishment of a good sharpening job. So why not go right to the big top when you're learning how to sharpen. So we look to do those acute angles. But the problem is when we pick that acute angle, we don't think that how we're going to strop it, reduce it 2 degrees, we get so close. So that's why I look to find the lowest achievable angle for a knife in its clamping position, working with the wicked edge. Now this one, like I explained at the first video, is on the stable riser. So it elevates it, it expands the geometry. And let's see, I didn't think, this one is about like a calibration knife. And I put the stone on it just for giggles before, to see where we're at. I did zero this out. It's flickering at 0.02. .010. Okay, so we're going to start just for kicks. And the point that I found that is as close as I can get, that knife edge, I still can get that stone right up to the knife edge, and that's 16.5 degrees. So I was able to get closer to the knife. It's not that magic number 15 degrees. This 16 degrees is far more acute than you would ever want to put on this banjo silly knife. And the other thought is the stropping. By determining 16.5 degrees, that means that any sharpening job that I want to do is going to be up about 18 degrees, because I can come down to 16.5 degrees. 18.5 will get me right to that point coming off 2 degrees. Now we talk about that 2 degrees. That is a stropping thing. Stropping is a whole skill set onto itself. But it's used after sharpening, so we have to be prepared for it. So that's why in the sharpening stroke and your angles and your profiling and all that, if you don't think ahead out to the stropping, you're going to get to the point where you want to strop and the recommendation is to go more narrow, and you can't. So we have to plan the knife accordingly. See how close we can get. Pick a knife edge. This is important. Put an edge that's wider than you think. A wider edge is on top of it. The bevel is shorter. You can do it again at a narrower angle and make the bevel taller. And you can do it again and come more acute and make it taller. But if you shoot your wad all at the beginning and go real tight, and you find out you can't apex that edge and it won't stand up to that narrow edge and you can't strop, when you go to go wider, you have that scratched scar that you put in by mistake. And it doesn't ever go away. It always shows forever, like a slip hanging down below a dress. You can't pull it up. All you can do is obliterate it like a tattoo. So start wider than you think. Know what your lowest achievable angle is. If you start wider than you think, you're sidestepping that problem, and work into it. See how the knife behaves at a more conservative angle. 20 degrees to 18 degrees is a pretty good angle all around for every knife, including the sharpest, hardest steels. Only when you can clamp a knife and sharpen it to 15 degrees, and while it's clamped, reduce that angle and strop it, is that viable, that 15 degrees. if you learn how to strop how I strop, and I just came about because someone said that they could do it, I tried. And I found out that I can strop and the strop goes where I need it to go without rolling over the edge. That's why we go more acute, so that that strop doesn't roll over the edge, so it goes off the edge like that. We go more acute. When you don't reduce it, you have a chance of rolling the edge. Then it's a pressure thing. My pressure, I have such that I can use the strops without lowering the angle. Most people, it's recommended 2 degrees, so you have to plan your sharpening at the onset to give you room to reduce your angle to strop. Until you learn how to strop and learn what you can get away with. So we talked about strokes, we talked about clamping position, we talked about a little bit about strops and planning your sharpening, and I'm going to call it quits because I'm burnt. Thanks.